Good morning to you, Ian.
Morning, Julia.
If Jeremy Corbyn does redouble his efforts to tackle anti-Semitism, will that have any effect? Because, as I say, 2 times 0 is 0, isn't it?
Well, look, he's got to take a much more serious approach to this. I mean, the letter, it was the fourth attempt, and he finally managed to apologise.
This is, of course, for the basically supporting this Facebook mural, which was just the most vile anti-Semitic image.
A grotesque racial caricature, a really disgusting mural. And as I say, it was the fourth attempt, and he finally managed to apologise. So the letter's fine, but what we need is proper action. I think we need a proper response, and the leadership have got to really reflect on the shame. I mean, this has been, I think, a moment of huge shame for the Labour Party, utterly unprecedented. Thousands of people from the Jewish community and non-Jewish supporters coming together in Parliament Square last night, a protest against racism in the Labour Party. I mean, I don't think any of us could ever have imagined something like that having to happen. And the leadership have really got to wake up and understand how serious this is.
But are they awake to it? Because it seems to me that whenever I look at the abuse that prominent Jewish people get in the media, when they retweet them, I would say 8, 9 times out of 10, the person who's writing that abuse has a Twitter bio or Facebook bio in which they identify themselves as a Corbynista.
Well, look, as I say, the leadership have got to respond properly to this. They've really got to reflect on it, and they've got to come up with a proper plan of action. Look, at the very minimum, as a first step, boot out Ken Livingstone, right? Boot him out of the Labour Party. He has no place in the Labour Party. He should be out. Second, I think they should deal with the backlog of complaints. Progress on this has been far too slow, so they've really got to treat the complaints that have been made about anti-Semitism much more seriously. And third, anybody guilty of it, kick them out. I mean, some of these people have been responsible for coming out with the most appalling anti-Semitic abuse, and they send them on a training course. I mean, a training course? How ludicrous is that? Kick them out. There's got to be no place in the Labour Party for racists and anti-Semites. That's what I think. Those three things, just as a start. But the Labour leadership has really got to face up to it, as I say, and come up with a proper plan of action.
But the thing is, you say you kick these people out, but why are they there in the first? Why do they think, A, that the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn is the party for them? I mean, unless these people have just been hiding away all these years, just waiting to speak out, why do they think that Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party is a place where it is a safe space to be anti-Semitic?
Well, I think that's a complex question, and I think
I think it's a really simple question. I think it's got a really simple answer.
Well, look, I don't know. I mean, I've thought about this a lot, and I have no sympathy for these people, and I'm not going to make any excuses for them, and I think they should be booted out of the Labour Party. But I think the reasons for this, to be fair, I think they are many and varied and complicated. Some people have got really appalling views, have probably always had them, and now feel, emboldened to say them. Some people with appalling views have joined the Labour Party in the last couple of years. Some people, and this is the really poisonous and pernicious thing, there are some people who have never met a Jewish person in their lives who, probably, they probably didn't know anything at all about Israel, yet they see Jeremy Corbyn being criticised, or quite rightly, by people like me, on these issues, and then they buy this appalling smear that it's being weaponised, he's being attacked because of his stance on Palestine, and they get sucked into this sort of hatred, and they start coming out with anti-Semitic things because they think they're defending Jeremy Corbyn.
But this is one of the bizarre
it's a real
things,
virus,
though.
It's a poison, and it's got to be dealt with.
But this is one of the issues, isn't it? On the hard left, this pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-US thing is a very, very big theme, and it all gets caught up with each other. And absolutely, you can absolutely be against, Israel government policies on many issues, and still not be anti-Semitic. Absolutely, of course. I've got members of my own family who are Jewish who are very anti the Israeli government. But that's not the point. The key thing is no. But there are so many people on the hard left. They spend so much time being anti-Israel. Of all the countries in the Middle East that I have a problem with, Israel isn't in the top 10. So
Okay.
why is it the number one and the only one? Why do so many people on the hard left have so much time being angry about Israel when it's the only democracy, whether we like what they do or not on any particular policy? It is the only democracy in the entire Middle East.
Well, I think you should ask them, not me. I think Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East too. I think you look around the Middle East, problems in Syria. I mean, Syria in carnage, hundreds of thousands dead, millions displaced. Yemen in a brutal civil war. There's been turmoil in Egypt too, and yet some people do think that this tiny country of 8 million people is the cause of all the problems. I don't agree with that at all. Look, I'm a member of Labour Friends of Israel, but I'm critical too of the Netanyahu government's policies. I want to see much more progress on the peace process. I want to see a Palestinian state living side by side in peace and security with Israel. So I think it's perfectly possible to criticise the Israeli government's policies without being anti-Semitic. But Julie, I'm afraid if you want an answer to those questions, get one of them on your show and ask them, because it's a mystery to me, just as it is to you.
Ian Austin, thank you very much indeed. He's the Labour MP for Dudley North, being very critical, as you hear there, of Jeremy Corbyn's response to the issue, and so it's about the huge shame there of the Labour Party having to protest against anti-Semitism within the Labour Party.